For the White House press briefing to begin. It should begin any moment. Should be beginning any moment. Hopefully, I got the sound on. I can't tell. But yeah, it's been interesting thus far. An interesting day. I just decided to dig deep into something, and it's funny because there's this company called Eli Lilly, right? So they manufacture a COVID drug that was just had its emergency authorization revoked because it's proven not to be effective on the two most prevalent variations of Omicron, the two most prevalent variations. Their monoclonal antibody treatment that they've released from Eli Lilly, and I forgot what it's called. It's called like Biome something. Anyway, that their emergency use authorization was just revoked by the FDA today. So it caused me to look into the company a little bit because, for one, I wanted to see why it was revoked because I thought that was a little curious. And it just turns out the only reason it was revoked was because it's just proving to be ineffective against these Omicron variants, right? And there's four other choices for them. Um, but I wanted to look in because I saw the massive amount of money that transferred hands between the United States government and Eli Lilly, right? So we're talking, billions of dollars since the start of COVID in 2021 and 2022. They received billions and billions of dollars. In fact, the company as a whole had a 15% increase from 2021. From 2020 to 2021 because of their COVID sales. 5%, roughly, and 28 billion. Do the math. 5% of $28 billion is what they made off of their COVID stuff and from the United States government. So I wanted to look at how much money, or the press conference is starting. Oh, see, I knew the sound was off. I don't know why it does that.
We are pleased to welcome President and Mrs. Macron
She's going to lie.
and the delegation from France to the United States. Above all, this visit is a celebration of the strong French-U.S.
I'll continue
relationship
talking
and the
about that in a
personal
minute
relationship
after this is
between
done.
President Biden and President Macron. Just a few.
Also, guys, we're giving away an iPad in the next 24 hours. How you enter is sending a Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal down below. We're going to give away a 10-inch iPad tomorrow night on tomorrow night's live show. So if you want to enter, you can enter as many times as you want. Use Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. And again, you have from now until tomorrow. And of course, we're still doing the TV giveaway if you order a trucker bundle. That's Friday.
Towards tomorrow, I know everyone is eager to hear more details about the state dinner itself. Today, the First Lady is actually about happening right now, is hosting a media preview with the White House Social Secretary, Carlos Elizondo, followed by presentations from White House Executive Chef Chris Comerford and White House Executive Pastry Chef Susie Morrison. At that preview, they are sharing information about the menu and the decor for the state dinner.
Bullshit.
I also wanted to share some good economic news. First, this morning, we learned that our economy grew at even stronger pace in the third quarter than we previously thought. American consumers continue to spend and American businesses continue to invest here at home at even stronger pace. Second, as of today, the average price of gas is now below $3.50 a gallon for the first time since February, before Putin's invasion of Ukraine. And the most common price for gas is $2.99.
When they say common
gas
price,
prices are down about $1.52 per gallon since June, for a savings of $160 per month for American families with two cars.
So just to fact check her. So yes, it's down from the June high, but look where we were a year ago. $3.11. Or actually regular is $3.39. So we're still down.
Record number of holiday shoppers.
What? Or we're still 10 inches more, or 10 inches.
Monday. And Adobe Analytics reported consumers spent
a
record $35 billion online over just 5 days. It will take time to bring inflation back down to normal, but the American people showed that they still have confidence that the president's economic plan is indeed working. As the president said yesterday, he'll work with anyone, Democrat, Republican, or independent, with ideas on how we can provide working families breathing room and build a stronger, more resilient economy for the long haul. That's what the American people voted for in November. With that, Colleen, you want to kick us off?
Sure, thank you. There are reports that the Islamic State leader has been killed, and wondered if you could confirm that, and also whether the U.S. was involved at all if it was a U.S. attack or, I'm sorry, operation.
So earlier today, ISIS publicly announced the death of al-Quraishi, the overall leader of ISIS. This follows the same fate of his predecessor, Aji Abdullah, who was killed in a U.S.-led raid in February in northwestern Syria. We are pleased to see the removal of ISIS's top leaders in such quick succession. The United States remains committed to countering the global threat from ISIS and stands ready to work with international partners who share that same goal. We will build on these counterterrorism successes, and we will keep that pressure on for sure. As far as any involvement by the U.S. As it relates to the death of al-Quraishi, there was no result. It was not a result of any U.S. action. I can confirm.
Thank you. And then another question on Indiana. The Indiana Attorney General has asked the state medical board to sanction the doctor who spoke out about performing an abortion on a 10-year-old girl from Ohio. I just wondered what the White House's thoughts were on that effort, whether it could potentially send a chilling effect or cause a chilling effect to other doctors, whether doctors should be speaking out about this. I just sort of wondered where the White House stood on this.
So I can't speak about the details of the Indiana AG's request to the medical board, but there's a couple things I do want to lay out and take a step back, because it's a truly horrifying situation. We're talking about a 10-year-old child here who was raped and could not receive health care in her home state of Ohio, and was forced to travel because she was raped and had to go to another state, clearly, as some of you have reported. A doctor who provided reproductive care to a child that was raped is now being accused of violating patient privacy by an elected official. That is what we're seeing, and that is what is currently happening. And if that was not enough, if that weren't enough, he is asking the state medical board to discipline the doctor for speaking out about patients in desperate need of care. And this is not about the concerns of the victim. This is not about the victim at all. This is an elected official going after a doctor for helping a child who was raped and seeking health care. And broadly speaking here, and you've heard us say this before, I know there was a lot of concern in here back in October on whether there was too much focus on women's losing their constitutional right. And as you can see, there should be more concern. And these types of situations are very real, and they are very much an interest of the American people. We saw that in this past election. This is something that the American people care about. This is something that women care about. They want us to continue to fight for their rights, to fight for the freedom that they've had for almost 50 years when Roe was in place. So the facts that Americans do not want politicians making their healthcare decisions for them, and we saw that from Kentucky to Michigan. Americans rejected backwards, dangerous proposals. But what we continue to see from Republican officials just across the country is that they want to take away that right, to take away that freedom. So the president and the vice president is going to do everything that they can to continue to fight for Americans' freedom and for their rights.
One more quick one.
Sure.
Sorry. The Prince and Princess of Wales are going to be in Boston this Friday, I think. Will the president meet them or see them or hang out with them?
Hang out, okay. So the president intends to greet the Prince and Princess of Wales when he is in Boston. We are still finalizing and working through the details, so I don't have anything more to share, any more specifics to share on that. Get Mary.
The president released a statement praising the House for passing this bill to avert a shutdown of the rails. He says he wants it on his desk immediately, but he didn't mention this separate bill guaranteeing 7 days of paid sick leave for rail workers. Does the president also back and support this legislation? Does he also want that on his desk?
So I just want to say a couple of things that the president believes that a bill averting a rail strike needs to reach his desk by this weekend. He is very clear about that because we need to protect the American families from a potential devastating effects of a rail shutdown. And we have talked about that numerous times, and the president was really clear about that when he put out his statement earlier this week. The president, of course, he supports paid sick leaves for all Americans, including rail workers, but he does not support any bill or amendment that will delay getting this bill to his desk by this Saturday. And he's been very clear about that. Again, he's a president for all Americans, and he believes that we need to avert this potential shutdown that would have a devastating effect on our economy, a devastating effect on jobs, a devastating effects in our communities across the country and our farms as well.
What is the president's message to union workers, rail workers across the country, who backed the president, who helped him get elected, believed that he was standing with them, and who feel that he has betrayed them?
Look, the president, as you know, has been called by unions and labor leaders as a pro-union president. And he takes that very seriously. He is the most pro-union president in history.
Hold on, I gotta
he's
fix
worked
that.
tirelessly to
I don't know why
secure
it's doing that.
victories for unions and for workers since he was first elected to
What
the
the
Senate.
hell?
So this is when it comes to labor, when it comes to union, this is something that he has worked towards and making sure that
Isn't
he
that weird?
delivers for what he called
What is
yesterday. If you listen to him during his Michigan statement, he said they were the backbone. They build our middle class, right? They were the best workers that we have in this country. And so, as a proud pro-union president, he's reluctant to override the ratifications.
He's not pro-union. He just fucked over the unions.
Right? We have to remember there were 12 unions involved in this when the tentative agreement was done. When that agreement came out, it was praised. We received praise from rail unions and from folks and from the companies as well. And once that agreement came to fruition because of the work that this president did on September 15th, there was a cooling period, and it was ratified by eight unions of the 12. And so, look, we have to remember there are really good pieces in this deal. There's a 24% pay raise and a 5,000 bonus, no changes in co-pays, deductibles, or co-insurance cost, some time off for routine, preventive, and emergency medical care, and protecting the two-man crew. This is a deal that has a lot of benefits, but again, he wants to make sure that we avert a shutdown that would be detrimental to our economy.
Okay. Thanks, Kareem. Europe and France are concerned about Buy America provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act, and President Macron is expected to raise that during his visit. What will President Biden say in response to this?
So I'm not going to get into hypotheticals about what may come up in that conversation. Yeah, but still, well, it's hypothetical because it hasn't happened yet. They may have flagged that. I'm not going to speak for France, clearly. I'm just speaking for this president. I speak for the president of the United States. So right now, it is a hypothetical that it will come up, right? And but I will say this: the Inflation Reduction Act, as we know, is historical. It will, it is an investment that will, a historical investment that will deal with climate change in a real way. It will lower costs for American families.
You said the sound is low.
Healthcare, if you think about energy cost as well, and just a couple of things. There's a number of provisions that will contribute to the growth of clean energy sector globally, and that is important to note. It presents significant opportunities for European firms, as well as benefits to EU energy security. And this is not a zero-sum game for us. And so we see a constructive path of engagement with the EU on this, and we continue to discuss this issue at all levels of the U.S. government. Again, I'm just not going to get ahead of what will be on the agenda in their conversation.
Like from your prepared response that you're prepared to talk about it.
We're always prepared to talk about issues that may come up. Certainly with our allies. As you know, France is our oldest ally, and the president looks forward to meeting with President Macron. We read the news reports and your reportings as well. We have heard President Macron's comments. So of course, we're ready to have that conversation, but just don't want to get into a potential hypothetical. Maybe it comes up and maybe it doesn't. But the president is very proud of this Inflation Reduction Act. It will have true benefits for American families, and it's historical.
You have a response to Fed Chair Powell's remarks about inflation today.
So I have a little bit of what we wanted to say about that. Give me 1 second here. So when it comes to his comments, as you know, we are very clear about the Fed having their independence and respecting that independence. As we know, prior presidents have not made that clear, and it was not something that they did. Many of them did not do. So we want to give the Fed the space to do the work that they need. They have the best monetary tools to deal with inflation. Our economic team continues to believe that thanks to the president's economic team and his economic plan, we can bring inflation down without giving up the historic gains that we have made. Our economy has added 10 million jobs, and unemployment is near a 50-year low. And so, as I just stated, we saw that economic growth last quarter that was even stronger than previously estimated. It was previously estimated at 2.6%. Now we're seeing at 2.9%. So again, as the chair said today, bottlenecks in goods production are easing, and goods price inflation appears to be easing. And so that is important. But I want to be very clear. We're going to give them their ability to work in an independent way and not going to interfere. And bless you.
Thanks, Karen. Just to follow up a little bit on Mary's question, given the close ties the administration has to the labor movement, have there been conversations maybe behind the scenes kind of explaining the why here or kind of detailing the decision-making process with the labor movement?
So, I mean, look, and we have said this, I said this the other day, Secretary Walsh has been in touch with the rail union. Secretary Buttigieg has been in touch with the companies. The president has been clearly in touch with congressional leaders in his administration, and Secretary Vilsack has been in close touch with the agriculture sector. But just to give a little bit of a timeline here, the president and his team have been directly engaged in supporting negotiations and averting a shutdown for months now. In July, as you recall, like we've talked about it right here in the briefing room, the unions asked him to constitute a presidential emergency board, a request they made because they know he is indeed a pro-union president, and he did just that. After the PEB, he brought the full weight of his administration to bear to keep the parties at the table and to get employers to make concessions, and they did. So he made it possible for the unions to secure tentative agreements in September that secured a higher pay. I just mentioned 24%, and you've seen that also in the president's statement, and a $5,000 bonus for workers. Those tentative agreements kept our rail system working and prevented a disruption to our economy. And just want to add, there was that cooling off period once that September 15th tentative agreement was made. In that cooling off period, those 12 unions were given the opportunity for them to ratify or vote for that tentative agreement. Again, 8 of them ratified it. That's a majority of the 12, and so we wanted to give the last 2 unions who voted in late November their opportunity to make their voices heard. And so that's kind of how you saw the process the last couple of months. We've been engaged. We've been certainly working with them on coming to this tentative agreement. And now we're at a place where the president has been very clear that we have to avert a rail shutdown, and he's asking Congress to act. He's very pleased by what the speaker and the leadership was able to do today in the House to move that forward.
Can I just ask one more quick one? This happened just an hour or two ago. maybe a little bit too new, but there were roughly a dozen Republican senators threatened to block the annual defense policy bill, which you guys need to finish before the end of the year, unless they get a vote on an amendment that would end the military's COVID vaccine mandate. One, do you have a response to that push? And two, more broadly, is there any thought to making changes on that anytime in the future?
So look, this is the first I'm hearing of this. As you said, it's very new, and so I will certainly let the Department of Defense speak to their own COVID vaccine requirement, and so I'm just not going to get more into that. I'll talk to the team further as to exactly what the specifics are of these members and what they're saying.
I just want to go back and clarify on the proposed 7-day paid leave amendment, or standalone that was passed by the House, however it's taken on the Senate. Does the president support that proposal?
So the president, again, believes that it is important to avert a rail strike, and that is what he's focusing on. And he wants to make sure that there's an agreement that's brought to his desk by the weekend to protect American families, to protect jobs, to protect farms, and to protect communities across the country. The president, of course, supports paid sick leave for all Americans and for including rail workers. This is something, as you have seen him over the past almost 2 years, talk about that and try to move forward and making sure in getting paid sick leave. But he understands there are not 60 votes, right? There are not 60 votes in the Senate to make that happen. His number one priority is making sure that we get this done. So he does not support any bill or amendment that will delay a bill that's getting to his desk by Saturday.
Two other quick ones. Does he have a plan to meet with the new House Democratic leadership?
I don't have anything to preview for you at this time on a meeting. I don't have any calls to preview at this time.
This was brought up on a background call yesterday, previewing today's Tribal Nations Conference. And those on that call said they didn't have anything on. I'm just curious, maybe you do. Does the president support the Cherokee Nation's push to get a non-voting delegate to the House of Representatives, which would make good on an 1835 treaty that was supposed to seek one?
I'm just going to repeat what you heard on the background call. We just don't have anything to share on that at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Corrine. Kevin McCarthy says that he invited President Biden down to the border. How does the president RSVP? Well, we know the president's never been down to the border. The possible next speaker says that he wants him to go with him. So is he going to?
So look, he's been there. He's been to the border, and since he took office.
When did he go to the border?
Since he took office, the President Biden has been taking action to fix our immigration system and secure our border. And that's why on day one, he put forward an immigration reform, a piece of legislation to deal with what is currently happening at the border. But, that we're not seeing that from Republicans. We're not seeing a willingness to work with us on fixing a situation that's been around for decades now. Instead, they're doing political stunts. That's what they want to do. That's how they want to take care of the situation. But in the meantime, the president has secured record levels of funding for the Department of Homeland Security. We have over 23,000 agents working to secure the border. We've taken thousands of smugglers off the streets, and we're cutting down on asylum processing times, and a number of individuals arriving unlawfully from northern Central America and Venezuela is coming down significantly because of the actions that the president has taken.
Okay, on another subject, when are you guys going to delete the White House Twitter account?
Why would we do that?
Well, you're saying that you're keeping an eye on Twitter because it might not be a suitable platform, so why use it?
Look, I want to be very clear here. The president has always said, and he has been very, very clear in his belief that it is important of social media platforms to continue to take steps to reduce hate speech and misinformation. And will continue to say that. But media platforms make independent choices about their information that they present. And so, look, I don't have anything to share on any policy or any changes that we will be making. We have multiple platforms, as you know, that we utilize to communicate with the American people.
When you say that you're going to be monitoring some of the speech on there, if you see something that you don't like, would you try to shut Twitter down?
So look, when you talk about monitoring, it is. I hate to break it to you, Peter. Just like everybody else, we very much monitor the news. We pay close attention to everything that you all are reporting, and Twitter's in the news a lot. And so that's what we're paying attention to. We're paying attention to what is in the news and what is being reported on the misinformation that's out there. Let's not forget there's groups like NAACP, the Anti-Defamation League, and the public health leaders have been very vocal about their concerns as well. So yes, we are reading what you all are writing and looking at what you all are reporting about the misinformation that is out there. But I would hope that all Americans, including social media companies, civil rights organizations I just laid out, including Fox as well, will agree that we need to call out hate speech and misinformation.
Karine, thank you. Was there any consensus among the leaders yesterday about how to deal with the debt ceiling in the meeting the president hosted?
So I don't have anything beyond what we laid out for you all in our readout. And as you know, again, I don't have anything else to lay out. I'm not going to go beyond what we talked about. We talked about as you know, the president talked to them about the four leaders about the rail situation, the rail strike, and averting that, on making sure that we don't put the American people through an potential economic downturn, and also the government funding. Those are the things that I can tell you that they did definitely speak about.
Just ticking off a couple fast ones here. Earlier we heard from John Kirby on this issue, but as hours matter here, I'm just going to ask for any update. Has the U.S. had any new contact with Paul Whelan in the course of today to get a better sense of his well-being?
So I don't have anything else to share from beyond what you heard from my colleagues. Our embassy in Moscow has been working to understand exactly Paul's condition and why his family hasn't heard from him. It is a concern. We're all worried, very much worried about Paul and about Brittany Griner as well. As we have said repeatedly, they shouldn't be detained in the first place. They should be home with their families today. But we will keep working on bringing them home. Just don't have anything further to share.
Let me ask you. You said that the president's going to have a chance to greet in some form the Royals when they're in Boston later this week. He's supposed to be in Boston this week for a greeting with them, and it turns out for a Democratic fundraiser that's taking place there to help support Democratic candidates. Why is the president attending a Democratic fundraiser in Massachusetts and has no plans, as best we understand at this point, to go to Georgia, where there is a Democratic candidate who's facing a tight challenge?
So first, let me just say the Hatch Act. I want to be really careful. This is an ongoing race that's current, and so want to be careful on how. I just want to state that out there. The Hatch Act. I am covered on the Hatch Act. One of the things I would argue, Peter, that we saw the last several months is that it didn't matter where the president went. His message very much resonated. His message on his economic policy, how he was delivering for the American people. We talked about the bipartisan infrastructure legislation. We talked about the American Rescue Plan and how that was able to bring our economy back on track. We talked about the Inflation Reduction Act, and we made that contrast very clearly with Congress and what Republicans in Congress were trying to do, and that worked. Right, that worked. It was
maybe to follow, which is yes, no. Does the president believe it would help or hurt Raphael Warnock for him to campaign with him in Georgia?
Look, I'm not going to get into any political strategy here. That is not my place here to do that at the podium. I have said many times before at the podium, the president is willing to help Senator Warnock any way he can, and however the senator wants him to get involved. Okay.
Thanks, Karine. Is the administration getting involved in helping an American citizen who was arrested on a visit to the UAE? He's facing possible extradition to Egypt. He's criticized the Egyptian president and videos he made in the U.S.
So I don't know much about this particular individual that you're asking me about. When it comes to wrongfully detained U.S. citizens, the president has been very clear that his administration is going to do everything that they can to bring them home. This particular individual, I don't have any information for you at this time. We'd have to check with the team.
Karine, let me ask you this. The president last night had a statement praising the Senate for passage of the Respect for Marriage Act. Because, as you know, there are members of the LGBT community who argue that the bill is weak sauce. It doesn't go far enough to protect the rights of same-sex married couples in the event that Obergefell does get struck down. What's the White House's message to those who are concerned that the bill doesn't go far enough?
Look, you saw the president's statement last night. This is a huge step forward. And it is historic that we saw this movement from Congress in a bipartisan way to protect same sex marriage. And I think, in the time that we're in, when we're talking about the differences between Republicans and Democrats and how we're not able to get things done, we're seeing that right now in a key issue that matters to this community. Again, it's a step forward. There's still work to be done to get it across the finish line. But I do think, and we do think, it's something to celebrate. There's always going to need to be more work to do in any legislation that's passed, right? We're always going to want it to be perfect. But I think it is important to note that we are taking, again, a historic step forward. The president is very proud of the work that Congress is doing this in a bipartisan way to deal with an issue that he has fought on for many years. And you've heard him say people should be allowed to choose who they love, and love is love.
Can I follow up on that,
Corinne? Thank you. I want to follow up on the rail issue. Senator Sanders and about a dozen other Democratic senators released a statement earlier today essentially saying that President Biden did well in the initial negotiations, but Congress should do better. They called out the rail industry specifically for making record profits of more than $20 billion over the past 3 quarters, and essentially said that they should use some of those profits to put it back towards their workers and make sure their workers have paid sick leave. I wonder what the president makes of those comments. We've heard the president before call out industry, call out the gas and oil and gas industry for making record profits and not putting that back towards consumers. Does he feel the same way about the rail industry?
I want to be very clear here. The temporary agreement that the president was able to secure in September, on September 15th, as you know, that's when we announced it, had some real wins for workers. It really did. Again, the concessions he secured for workers included a 24% pay raise and a $5,000 bonus, no changes in copay, deductibles, or co-insurance costs for the operating crafts, some time off for routine, preventative, and emergency medical care, and protecting the 2-man crew. The victories he helped secure for workers is why the deal was ratified. It was ratified by 8 of the 12 unions. And we have to remember, right, if we were to be in a rail shutdown, it will hurt the very families that we're talking about, that you're asking me about, right? It would hurt the union families as well and union workers. And so, he was asked to get involved in July. He did. He put together the Presidential Emergency Board, and he put the full fullness of the full weight of the administration to get to this temporary agreement. And again, I just listed out some real concrete gains that we saw because of the president's involvement.
So this message from Democrats that there's corporate greed involved, and that's one of the reasons why they can't have an agreement here. The president doesn't agree that the rail industry.
What I'm saying is that the president was able to put together a temporary agreement that prevented a downturn, a disruption in our economy that would have hurt all families. And there are some really true wins that came out of this agreement because of the work that this president did. But look, I've said this many times, and he has said this many times, he's the president for all Americans, right? And it is important that we avert a rail shutdown. It is unacceptable. It would hurt farms. It would hurt jobs. It would hurt communities across the country. And so that is what the president is focused on. How is he going to help all Americans here?
Okay. Thank you, Corinne. Again, on the IRA issue and Macron's visit. It seems like both sides have been tiptoeing around this issue a bit because no one wants to, spoil the public face of this state visit. But during his lunch today, Macron said some pretty harsh words about the IRA. He said, for example, it was super aggressive against French competitors, and it would kill jobs in the EU. So I know you've said that you've taken it into account and you're considering and so on, but does the president? You'll be meeting with Macron for hours, I guess, tomorrow. Does he have some kind of sympathy for the straits that Macron seems to say that he's in on this? And in other words, is he really taking this on board as a very acute problem, the president? Because that seems to be the way Macron's putting it out there.
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of what's going to be on the agenda for their visit tomorrow. I'm not going to get ahead on what they're going to talk about, the topics that they will be discussing. I've been very clear. France is the United States' oldest ally. This visit is about reaffirming their relationship. And you've seen yourselves the relationship in person when they've met a few times during this president's almost 2 years tenure here. They have a very warm friendship. It is an important relationship, and that the president takes very seriously. And I know that President Macron does as well. But look, there's a number of provisions that we think will contribute to the growth of the clean energy sector globally, as I've mentioned already in the Inflation Reduction Act, and it presents significant opportunities for European firms and as well as benefits to EU energy security. This is not a zero-sum game. But we have to remember the Inflation Reduction Act is a historic piece of legislation that's going to lower costs for the American people. And it's also going to invest a historic investment into dealing with climate change in a real way. So not going to get into hypotheticals about what's going to be said or how the president's going to deal with XYZ. What I can tell you is we welcome the president of France and his wife, and the president's looking forward to having conversations with them.
Just a quickie, scheduling kind of thing. The French press people have put out that he's having dinner. The two are having dinner tonight with their spouses. I guess at a restaurant, a private dinner they're calling it. Can you confirm that? 'Cause it's not
I don't have anything to preview at this time. Okay, April.
Corinne, I want to go back to rail strike or potential thereof, and I want to drill down on what you continue to say, the hurt. You know, this White House, this administration on the Hill, you guys are rallying the economy. As some are concerned about what the first quarter, the end of the first quarter could look like in 2023. Could you qualify and quantify what that hurt looks like? Because you keep talking about the union people and their families, but it's broader than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me break it down exactly what this could look like. It would have a rail shutdown, would have a grinding effect on our economy to halt and touch the lives of nearly every family across the country. Even in the days before a rail stoppage, serious disruptions will begin to occur. A couple of examples here. By Friday, Class 1 railroads will likely begin to notify their customers of the wind down process. Just the announcement would disrupt supply chains as companies begin to reschedule shipments from rail to truck. As soon as this weekend, Class 1 railroads may begin to refuse to transport hazardous materials like chemicals necessary to treat drinking water and wastewater. Oil and gas refineries unable to ship out hazardous byproducts will stop producing diesel and gasoline, creating supply constraints. The auto sector could also be disrupted as soon as this weekend as well. Last time around, the railroads began refusing to transport automobiles about a week ahead of the shutdown deadline. So again, Congress must get a bill to the president's desk this weekend to protect families and from these potential devastating impacts. So this is what we're talking about. These are real life, changes and impacts that we can see here.
So with that said, thank you for all that. Didn't expect you to have it. Thank you. But at the end of the day, you are fighting inflation. This White House is fighting inflation. And it sounds like the numbers will go up again. What is in place? What are you guys working on in case there is a strike? In understanding those numbers and all the things that you qualified and quantified, what is in place to cushion the American taxpayers' pocketbook or the American consumer's pocketbook with this knowledge that you have?
So let me just on inflation for a second, and it's I do want to point out that we've seen in recent months, which is inflation slowing in the third quarter compared to first and second quarters. So that's good news. And the last CPI, we've seen prices fall for used cars, apparel, inflation moderation for housing, food, and services. all welcome news as we head into the holidays. So we have seen that in the data points in the past several months. So that's important to note. And as I've said many times, when it comes to the president's economic plan, inflation is lowering costs and dealing with inflation, fighting inflation is the president's #1 priority. At the beginning of the briefing, I laid out gas prices, how much it's fallen. The average, the gas price that you'll see is about $2.99. It's gone down by more than a $1.50 per gallon. And that's because of the work that this president has done with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, taking historic action. So that matters as well. We are certainly working towards that. But look, the president is confident that Congress is going to act on this, that we are going to, work to avert a railway shutdown. That's why you saw the House today. He complimented the House, the Speaker, and the leadership to moving the bill forward, and it included Democrats and Republicans, right? So we saw a interest of getting this done across the spectrum. So we're going to continue to work towards that. It's going to go to the Senate next, and the president and his team is going to continue to encourage members to get it done.
Related to that, is the administration still engaged with the rail companies, the unions, in the event to sort of keep talks going in the event that the Senate is either unable to get this passed or maybe is delayed in getting this passed?
So look, we are confident in it, and we are going to continue to push to get this done. The president is going to continue, and his team is going to continue to work Congress to make sure that we avert a rail shutdown. As we know, it will have catastrophic effects and impacts to our economy. So we're gonna stay on track there. Yes, is our administration continuing to having those conversations? I laid out Walsh has been talking to unions for the past several months. That continues. I've talked about Secretary Buttigieg, Department of Transportation, talking to the companies. That will continue, and also Secretary Vilsack is doing his part with the agriculture sectors. So those conversations are always going to continue. But right now, our priority is working with Congress. The president has talked to the 4 leaders, as you know, yesterday about this particular issue. He's going to continue to talk to congressional members. Our team is going to continue to work on that to make sure that we avert this, make sure we put legislation forward that averts this rail shutdown.
Just to clarify, there are sort of ongoing negotiations between the unions and the rail companies.
I mean, look, I can't speak for the unions and the rail companies. That is, they're going to have their conversations. I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking for the president and what he's trying to do for the American people, and is to avert a rail shutdown.
Thanks, Doreen. Going back to tomorrow's state dinner, can you tell me what kind of COVID precautions will be in place, and are people attending this dinner required to get a COVID test?
So I can say this, as always, we will follow the CDC guidelines. So I point you to the CDC guidelines as it relates to COVID protocols, and I'm just going to point you to their website.
But as far as testing, do people?
Again, I'm just going to point you to the CDC guidance on this.
Following up on the Powell comments, I know you can't comment on Fed policy, but can you just tell us how confident is the White House right now that the U.S. will be able to avoid a recession?
I mean, look, I just laid out the data points in the beginning of this, beginning of my briefing, when I talked about how the third quarter, there was a revision in the third quarter and how much it's growing, right? It was first said it was going to be estimated at 2.6%, and we're seeing it at 2.9%. Look, we believe that this is an economy that's resilient. We believe that, and it's resilient because of the president's work, because of the president's economic plan, because of what he did walking into this administration, putting forth the American Rescue Plan that got schools open, that got shots in arms as it relates to the vaccine, put forward a real comprehensive plan so those schools could be open, so that small businesses could open up again. And it's continued, right? With the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, creating jobs with the Inflation Reduction Act. This has been all part of the president's plan to make sure that we build from the bottom up and the middle out. And that work has been able to create 10 million jobs in this administration. And we just saw the president in Bay City, Michigan, where he talked about the manufacturing jobs, bringing jobs back to the country because of the CHIPS and Science Act. Right, more than 700,000 manufacturing jobs that have been created in this president's administration because of the work that he's done. And so now what we're seeing, and you've heard us talk about this, is we're seeing an economy that's going into a transition to more stable and steady growth. So we do not foresee a recession. The data that I just laid out that we have seen the last couple months does not show a recession.
Separately, House Democrats made history today when they elected Hakeem Jeffries as the first Black leader. What's the president's reaction to the new leadership of the party in the House?
Well, as you know, the president, I should say, sends his heartfelt congratulations to his friend, Congressman Jeffries, as he marks profoundly important history, becoming the first Black leader of either party in either chamber of Congress. This is wonderful news for our country and highlights the promise of the American dream for all our people. He has worked with Congressman Jeffries for many years, delivering for the American middle class, as I just laid out when we talk about the president's economic policy, standing up for fundamental constitutional rights like the right to choose, and standing up with law enforcement to keep our communities safe in the fight against gun crime. So he also congratulates Catherine Clark and Peter Aguilar on their elections as well. He looks forward to working with all of them and building on the progress that we have made in the last almost 2 years.
Hey, Corinne, back on the border for a second. Congressman McCarthy also said that it was the president who brought up the border in the meeting. Is that accurate?
I'm not going to go beyond the readout.
Did you take it as a good faith invitation to go to the border or something?
I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to go beyond the readout that we provided yesterday.
Okay, and not related, you might have seen the foreign minister of Belarus died suddenly this week at 64. He's somebody who could maybe be a conduit to the West, but it's also, as you know, that regime is kind of tight with Putin. What does the White House make of this?
Don't have any comment at this time on that.
Okay.
Thank you. India tomorrow formally takes over the presidency of G20. It has announced its theme of one family, one earth, and one future. Announced its agenda, but from the U.S. perspective, what should be the G20 top priority for next year?
So the president's, we look forward to supporting India's G20 presidency next year, and on a range of issues, including addressing current food and energy security challenges, while continuing our efforts to build a resilient global economy. I know that Jake Sullivan was asked this question when he was here probably most recently about if the president is going to be attending. As you've seen, the president has been participating in the G20 in his tenure here. Don't have anything specific to announce or any specifics to announce on travel. I just said I don't have anything specifics to announce on his travel, but as you have seen, the past almost 2 years, he has been certainly participating in the G20.
Pakistan, there has changed. The new army chief has taken over, General Munir. Do you have anything on that?
So the United States values our long-standing cooperation with Pakistan and has always viewed a prosperous and democratic Pakistan as critical to U.S. interests. We look forward to continue to work with Pakistan to promote stability, prosperity for the people of Pakistan and the region. I will take one last question from the back.
In the back. Follow up. Thank you. So I follow up on the.
I just right here.
On the potential. Okay.
I'm interested. Why hasn't the president been more involved in helping the DNC decide its early slate of presidential primary states? Obviously, there's 4 or 5 potential states, and there's been a sense of that the White House hasn't, been public enough about which states it wants to go first.
Look, I was asked this question recently. It is a political question. It is about the 2024 elections. I cannot speak to this, so I would refer you to the DNC. It's not something that I can speak to from here. One last question. Go ahead. The young lady in the back. Go ahead.
Thank you. On the potential rail strike, some representatives today putting blame on the Biden administration, saying that it should have never come to this. What went wrong from the administration's point of view in September?
We don't think anything went wrong. We believe that if you think about the timeline that I laid out, and that what the president and his team has been doing for the past several months. We've been directly involved, engaged in supporting negotiations and averting a shutdown, and we've been doing this for months. And it was because of the president's action back in July. The unions asked him to constitute a presidential emergency board, a request they made because they knew as a pro-union president, he would be able to get to an agreement. And he did. On September 15th, he came through with a temporary agreement that had an increase in pay by 24%. It had a 5,000 bonus. It has a 5,000 bonus for workers. And let's not forget, when that agreement came out on September 15th, it was lauded and praised by the unions and union leadership. So again, this is a president that has delivered for the union, and he sees himself as a pro-union president. That term has been given to him by labor. And again, what is so important right now is that we need to make sure that we avert a rail shutdown, and that's what the president is calling on Congress to do. This is something that would have a direct effect on those union families. It would have direct effect on communities across the country. It would have an impact on on farms, on jobs, on agriculture, as I just mentioned. So this is incredibly important that we avert this, and that's why the president is calling on Congress to act. Thanks, everybody.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Bonne nuit.
Shut up. Au revoir. Bonne nuit. Why isn't this working? I have too many windows open. Let me close all these other windows on this computer. Someone said the Department of Justice, Garland, is speaking currently. So I'm trying to find that real quick. Oh, this is about the conviction of Stewart Rhodes. Damn. So I think YouTube is having issues because YouTube's not working for me. Hold on, let me try to find it. Let's keep closing all these damn windows. That's over. I'm hearing like an alert, but there's nothing. Huh. Out of memory. What?
Negotiate, or at least attempt to negotiate, a consent decree, which will then be judicially enforceable. And that's the second part of the question. Now, as to how it relates to environmental justice, in May of this year, we issued a comprehensive strategy for environmental justice, the first part of which is to prioritize actions in cases of overburdened and underserved communities, and that's what we are doing with respect to Jackson. The department's founding purpose was to protect the civil rights of American citizens. Part of the reason that I wanted to be the Attorney General was to work on those problems. This is an example of our using all the resources of the Justice Department on civil rights issues, not only the Civil Rights Division, but civil rights are an element of the Environment Division, of every part of this component, and of the work that every employee of this department in their ordinary everyday work employs.
Josh. Mr. Attorney General, can you tell us, have you had a chance to meet face-to-face yet with Special Counsel Smith? And how does the process stand of getting him up to speed on the investigations he's supposed to supervise?
So I don't know what they're talking about. So Stewart Rhodes, he was the leader of Stewart Rhodes and Kelly Meggs were convicted by a jury in Washington, D.C. yesterday, I believe. They were doing a trial with 5 different members of the Oath Keepers. They found 3 of them not guilty on the sedition charges, except for Stewart Rhodes and Kelly Meggs, who were convicted by the jury on the seditious conspiracy. Now, and that's for their role and the plotting and planning of the attack on the Capitol. However, it's interesting because we haven't heard anything about the Proud Boys. I guess their trial is supposed to begin later this week. And then, you have Enrique Tarrio, and I think that one's going to be interesting because they're actually providing very little information to these people that are facing the cases. They're providing little information, and then a lot of the information that they are providing is redacted, so you're not even able to find out. Like in the Proud Boys, there was apparently over 20 confidential informants for the feds that were involved with the Proud Boys at some capacity, which is kind of funny, you know. And again, when I say kind of funny, it's kind of funny because Enrique Tarrio is an FBI informant. And Enrique Tarrio is being charged with seditious conspiracy, and he is do you know what I mean? Like the whole thing doesn't make any sense. I don't want to say like they're getting railroaded, but something fishy is going on, because how are you convicting confidential informants, saying that they weren't informing, and like in DOJ documents against Enrique Tarrio in the past, he's been labeled as a prolific confidential informant for the Department of Justice and the FBI, and which resulted in the convictions of over a dozen people. Enrique Tarrio's involvement as a confidential informant helped lock up some very bad people, and yet his handlers were apparently unknowing that he was planning on, for what the Department of Justice says, he was planning this massive attack on the White House or on the Congress. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. Not a lot does. I'll be honest with you, that comes out of there. We heard them talk a lot today about, during the White House press conference, we heard a lot talked about this railway strike. There was a vote in the House today. Well, there was actually two. There was a resolution to the vote, but it did pass the House and now has to go before the Senate, and we'll wait and see. And I'm not sure when they're doing it. It's not a done deal yet, but basically this is taking the power out of the unions. That, like, it's funny because she just said, oh, they called Joe Biden a union president. He's a union guy. One of his first actions was to cut the Keystone Pipeline, which directly affected over 20,000 union jobs, with 3,000 or 6,000 of them immediately losing their jobs. So how he could say he's a union guy, I really don't understand. You know, I really don't understand. Erdem asked, was Enrique Tarrio planted or flipped for the feds? No, he was. So when he was snitching on people, that had to do with drug smuggling cases in Florida. It had to do with drug smuggling cases and like sex trafficking cases. So and he got all those people locked up and was labeled as a prolific confidential informant. There's some that say that Stuart Rhodes as well was a confidential informant. I don't know whether that's true, but the fact that he stayed out of jail as long as he did leads me to think that he is. But it's interesting, you know, because they're seemingly trying to go after these guys and chock them up full of charges. Hold on, let me get rid of Discord on this one. Quit Discord on that computer, because this is my everyday work computer, the one that, well, it's my like at home work computer. I'm also very tired because my family came into town last night and we ended up the time went entirely too quick, and there may have been the use of beer. So and I've been here since, I had to go to the store at 9 o'clock this morning. I had stuff to do. I was trying to grab, you see the racks back here? I was trying to see if I could hang those black curtains that I used in the other studio, but unfortunately it's not going to work. It still shows the light through, so I need to get some like blackout curtains. But yeah, so I'm very tired. And just to put it into perspective, how late we were all up, my wife and kids are both out. They're all at home. They didn't even go to school today. My wife didn't go to work. We didn't plan on it, but we ended up staying up late. It was good because the three of us brothers never really get together anymore. So it was fun. Someone, Godride said, so Ray Epps was a decoy to keep us off track of the other CIs. Yeah, I have no idea, bro. I have no idea. The whole thing is just kind of crazy. The whole scenario with all these J6 defendants is just, it's not even just crazy. It's scary a little bit that the federal government can essentially build and for example, the person, this is what we still don't know. The person that gave the plans to attack Congress, that, remember, I forgot what it was, the 1776 papers or something like that is what they called it in court filings. That person, the person that gave the detailed 12-page plan on how they were going to attack Congress, is a confidential informant, which means that the person that gave them the documents to attack the members of Congress was a federal government agent. Do you know what I mean? Or was a confidential informant for the federal government. It has a lot to do with what happened with Gretchen Whitmer and the fact that this kidnapping plot that was planned by Gretchen, or that was planned by the feds, and they tried to get in some nutbags. It's almost like they have to arrest all these people to try to prove that there's domestic violent extremists in America, or at least the ones that they want to quantify as it, because we know there are domestic violent extremists in America. They literally planned online to attack Tesla dealerships, and they've been firebombing abortion clinic or pregnancy centers across the United States. They've been beating up senators in streets and terrorizing their communities and burning them down and shooting at police precincts. But they don't consider those people as a domestic violent extremist for some reason. They just call them nothing. What do they call them? Peaceful protesters? I don't know. So before the White House press conference started, I was talking about Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly is a drug manufacturer that has made billions of dollars off of the federal government purchasing their COVID vaccine, or their COVID monoclonal antibody drug that had a FDA emergency use authorization. So, and the reason I started paying attention to it is because today that emergency use authorization was revoked, or it was stopped. So the drug that they have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of federal contracts, and they have for the past 2 years, is suddenly not approved anymore. So I wanted to look into it more. And it turns out that the drug that Eli Lilly manufactured, and I forgot what it was called. Actually, I might as well just look it up to show you guys. It'll show right up. They make one that is called, actually, how come? Oh, I don't even know how you say that shit. So this one, I'll put it up on the screen. So this is the drug that they had in emergency use authorization from the federal government. Now they haven't updated this yet, but this emergency use authorization was pulled. It's no longer available. And so they haven't, and that just happened today. Let me see. If I look it up. Watch. Oh, this is a fact sheet. Yeah, so right here. This is from Reuters, right? 15 minutes ago they wrote it. Eli Lilly and Company's COVID-19 drug, blah, 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 is not currently authorized for emergency use in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration said, citing it's not expected to neutralize the dominant BQ1 and BQ1.1 subvariants of Omicron. Wednesday's announcement takes away authorization from the last COVID-19 monoclonal antibody treatment, leaving Pfizer Inc.'s the Paxlovid and Merck's Langruvo and some else treatments for the disease besides. Yeah, and then it goes on. So basically, they had it removed because it no longer it didn't treat these new variants of Omicron. So, which isn't all that surprising, you know what I mean? And what I was interested in is I wanted to see what other drugs Eli Lilly manufactures, because they manufacture a shite ton of drugs, right? But they receive so much money in contracts, You know, we're talking billions. Like, for example, in 2021 or this year, well, in 2021, they saw a 15% increase in revenues. You know, during COVID, a 15% increase in revenues, and 5 of which was allocated to their COVID drug. So, and you got to understand, they make $28 billion a year in revenues. 28, I think it's billion, maybe it's trillion, I don't know. But they make, you know, a staggering amount. So 5%, even though it doesn't sound like a lot, it is. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that the federal government has paid to this company. So I wanted to see what other drugs they manufacture. And it turns out Eli Lilly is one of the largest manufacturers of guess what drug? Insulin. Yeah. Their insulin. Eli Lilly has made headlines because they, before all these lawmakers and Senator Wyden, Ron Wyden, all these people started holding all this, you know, all the press about reducing the cost of insulin. Obviously, Joe Biden always talks about insulin. He's, you know, we want to make it so the cost of insulin is less than $35 for people on Medicare. That's what he always says, right? Eli Lilly has made headlines because they actually reduced their cost of insulin prior to all this, reducing it by 40%. Now, what's interesting about it is the president always brags, and I've said this before, the president always brags about how he's lost, or like how he took it to the drug manufacturers and they're lowering their prices of insulin and it's a big victory for him. Guys, they're subsidizing the cost of insulin by paying these drug manufacturers with these huge contracts for drugs, for COVID drugs, which then they're canceling the contracts on them. And I'm sure they still have to pay these companies the money. They bought it. You know what I mean? The companies are manufacturing the drug. So like, and everybody already knows that. And I've pointed it out too, because it's when you think about it, they're literally lying to the American public and saying, okay, well, insulin is going lower, so you're going to save money. But in all reality, what we're actually doing is now we're subsidizing the cost of insulin to the consumer, because before, like, you know, we just saw somewhere in the chat, someone said, my wife uses insulin, it's very expensive. What's interesting about this is that while, yes, you have to pay the insulin cost or your insurance or whatever they end up paying for it, but now that burden is being passed on to everyday Americans to have to pay the insulin cost, because they're subsidizing the cost reduction in insulin with these COVID things. And I'm curious, if I looked up all of the insulin companies, how many of them are owned by companies that made billions and billions of dollars from COVID? And even now, I mean, it's September of this year, Eli Lilly received a multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of government contracts for this same drug that now the emergency use authorization has been pulled from. I think that latest contract in September was a $280 million contract. So if their biggest, because here's the way to look at it, right? If their biggest drug generates $2.9 billion in revenue, which is what Eli Lilly's COVID drug, it's called Humana or something like that. If that drug in a single year generates $2.9 billion worth of money, and they make of revenue, and they make a 40% reduction in the price point, they're actually still making more money. They're getting all the positive spin, all the positive publicity of saying they're doing a $40 million reduction, and the federal government is subsidizing that cost. The federal government is then saying, oh, look, this company is doing it, and the Biden administration is getting people to change their policies and stuff. But in all reality, we are now, what they're doing is they're taking the cost from the individual consumer, and they're crowd paying it. They're using it from tax revenue, from our budget, which is kind of crazy. And it makes me wonder how many other companies are doing this, because remember the company that was making the baby formula, and their factory was shut down wherever the hell that was. And then we had the formula shortage and everybody started paying attention to it. That company, their parent company, is, for one, they're huge political donors. And secondly, they also receive billions of dollars worth of COVID funding because they switched and started making PPE or COVID tests. They started making COVID tests. And they had and this is the crazy part. When you look at it, when all the COVID tests started having to, people stopped buying them, and the federal government stopped buying them. That company, the same company that subsidiary makes the baby formula, I forgot what company it was. They ended up shutting down. They ended up shutting down one of their COVID testing manufacturing facilities in Maine, laying off over 2,000 people. and throwing away 700,000 COVID tests. Like it's the level of corruption is crazy. Because I know like people in the tech sector that do the government contracting. Like I'm in the wrong business, right? I wish I could find a government contract where I could supply them with coffee. Maybe I should look for that. I wonder if there was. I wonder if there is one. But I know they buy all this computer equipment and it sits in a warehouse for 4 or 5 years until the computer equipment's obsolete, and yet they're still buying this stuff. Because I've done some government contracting logistics, so we've transported things for people that had government contracts, computers, and bigger items, and it literally just goes to a warehouse. Any computer that, from what I was told by one guy that works in the industry, they literally have warehouses full of computers that they order just in case. Or they'll have this project where they order millions and millions of dollars worth of yes, Abbott. Yep. Where millions and millions of dollars of computers, and then it just sits in a warehouse. And then they auction it off a couple of years later because all the computer stuff, all the technology's obsolete at that point. It's pretty amazing. How many of you guys want a chance to win an iPad? We are giving away another iPad because I wanted to switch it up from the TV because we're giving away a TV on Friday. So, and if you want to win a chance for a 55-inch flat screen television, what you do is you go to theangryturnip.com, click on the trucker t-shirt bundle, buy that, and then you'll automatically be entered in for a chance for 2 TVs because we're giving away one of the TVs in the bundle itself. But if you want a chance to win an iPad, all you have to do is send a Cash App, a Venmo, or PayPal anytime between now and tomorrow night show. So anytime between now and tomorrow night show, send a Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. Write the platform that you're watching. So if you watch this on Facebook, send a $5 Venmo or a $10 or $20 or $3,000 Venmo to the name that's on your screen. It's also in the description. And then just write, I am watching on Facebook, or I watch you on Facebook, or I watch you on YouTube, or I watch you here, because that gives me a way to contact you. Alternatively, you could do what the one guy just did, because right now he's got a 100% chance of winning this iPad because no one else has done any of these things yet. But he actually just put his email as the comments. That's a really good way too, because the reason why you write the platform is because I need to be able to contact you after. Unless you do Venmo, and then I could just actually message you on the app. But if you do Cash App, leave your email, and then I can. And PayPal gives me your email anyway. So I don't know, but if you want a chance to win an iPad, that's all you got to do, and you could do it anytime from now until tomorrow night. So, and we'll do the live drawing tomorrow night, or the live random choice picker thing. It's not a drawing. This is not a giveaway. IRS. Do you know what I'm saying? I gotta word it in a good way. But if you want a chance, listen, $5 can get you a $329 iPad, and it's brand new in the box. See, it's never been opened. It's brand new. Like when I went in there and bought this one today, they're like, "What are you doing?" Because I buy all the TVs, I buy the laptops, I buy all that stuff, and I probably, for anyone that doesn't know, I give away a ton of stuff every single day. So I give away televisions, I give away gift cards, I give away technology, because it helps. It makes it so I feel comfortable doing the show and asking you guys to support the show. You know what I mean? So ultimately, as long as I'm making over what I pay for the item, I don't care, and it works for me. But it's brand new, so you can give it away as a Christmas gift. One of the other things I wanted to talk about real quick too is I've been spending a lot of time watching all these reactionary guys on social media. So the people that put out these videos based on like a news headline. So it's like a 6 to 10 minute video, and they'll put it out, and then and then go that way. YouTube for like 3 days, they had some glitch. So they're actually monetizing my videos, not anymore. And so they're restricting them again, or not restricting, they're limiting them. So ads aren't getting shown on them until I appeal, and then they do. But then by then people aren't watching anymore. So I was watching some videos, and namely a couple of big channels that do it all the time. And I realized that it seems a common theme with YouTubers to attack other YouTubers. It's something that I think gets, like, I did the reaction one on Tim Pool. Actually, I did that live yesterday, but I did the one about the non-binary. Did you guys like that title? I put that on YouTube and Facebook, where I talked about the person that was arrested for stealing women's luggage, the non-binary person, the dude or girl or trans, or, I still don't know how you'd call them, what you'd call them, because they, I don't know. They don't have a gender, apparently. Isn't that what it means? I have no idea. I don't care. But I put out that little video. How many of you guys watch that little video and enjoy those? Because I want to do them more, and I could do what some other people do, is just do 4 or 5 of those videos a day, go live a couple of times a week, and then put all of the videos that I do in that day, put them together as a podcast. You know what I mean? And, but the one thing I don't think I'll ever be able to do is just start doing the back and forth that some of these YouTube people do. They just like fight with each other all the time. And I know what it is because they're getting subscribers, right? So the Quartering is one that does it a lot. I like Jeremy, but he's one that does it a lot, where he like picks a fight with other streamers. And it is what it is. But I guess that's what you do. And all those guys make way more money than I do. So they're apparently doing it right. I think I need to just start picking fights with YouTubers. I'm going to pick a fight with Quartering, even though I like him. I'm just going to wait for him to write something stupid, and then I'm going to make a reaction video on it, just like everybody else does. But the reason why I got into this conversation, because there's been a lot on the Twitterverse about this guy, Liver King. How many of you guys have seen this guy? I think it's Liver King, isn't it? Watch, let me see. Liver. He's like an Instagram guy or something like that. And he's all over social media right now. This fella. He's all over he's all over social media, and it's funny because a lot of people that are commentating on it have no experience with any sort of sports or anything, right? Or any sort of physical activity. So anyone that lifts, like, obviously you guys know I'm a power lifter. So I lift. I literally have a gym in my office that I lift weights on all the time. And I can look at someone and tell whether they're natural or not. This guy's not natural. And apparently I didn't realize, and I'll be honest, I've only seen a couple of his videos. Like, to me, when you got a big scraggly beard like this dude does, I don't know. There's something about him I don't like, right? And he's always shirtless, which is annoying. But he's huge on Instagram. And over the past year, he's surpassed over 1.7 million subscribers or followers or whatever, Insta followers, whatever the fuck they're called on Instagram. He's massive on that platform. And apparently what a lot of the conversation, and his big thing is he believes in these 9 tenets, right? Like rest and eat and blah, and gym and physical activity, blah, blah, blah. And he just goes off on, and he says like, that's what it takes to be, a man or a human or something like that. Right. But what's funny about it is there's all this outrage right now on social media because it apparently some random YouTuber that obviously has a bone to pick with people that do steroids made this video, right? And I say random YouTuber, he's got over 1 million subs, and his video that he released in 24 hours ago has over 1 million views. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because I've had 2 videos or 3 videos that have gone over 1 million, and I know how much money I made off of those videos that have gotten over 1 million. And I'm just like, what the hell? Because there's people that literally do it every day. If I had that kind of money where I was making, tens of thousands of dollars a day on videos, like Tim Pool, man, he makes so much money as well. But anyway, so that guy he's got over 1 million views, this guy that outed him. And they outed him because he's used like, this video, the Liver King lie, and it's like exposed. And to me, I don't understand why it's such a big deal. Like, maybe it's because the guy's representing that, and he's gone on numerous podcasts and said he doesn't do steroids. You know, you don't get a physique like that from not doing steroids. Yeah, you really don't. You want to see the physique of a guy that doesn't do steroids and is still strong as fuck? It's this guy. You know, I haven't had a six pack since I was like 16. I don't want one. It doesn't do me any good, you know? And I just think it's funny, man. I think it's funny how everybody's gone after this guy. I can understand that if he's marketing his supplements and trying to represent that he is natural, which he has gone on other podcasts and said that he doesn't do steroids. And then what they did, this guy, this guy that has this channel, where's that video? Right here. So whoever that YouTube guy was, I forgot where it was. But that YouTube guy, someone sent him all these personal emails from this guy, the Liver King, and he literally goes through all of the emails online, detailing what his dose is of everything, his blood work, his personal details that were released, you know, and it's to me, it's crazy. I suppose the only reason I'm talking about this right now is because I just don't understand the fascination of going after other YouTube accounts. And like you could obviously this has been picked up everywhere. It's gone super viral and everybody's talking about it. And they're shitting on this guy because, you know, he goes out on podcasts and says he's natural and doesn't use any steroids in an effort to sell his supplement line, because then it makes people believe that they can get physiques like him just by being, you know, eating raw liver and bull testicles and stuff like that. Like that's what this guy talks about, right? He eats raw liver, he eats bull testicles, he eats, you know, raw meat, you know, high meat intake, you know, diet, all that stuff, eating multiple times a day, which is what every freaking person does. You know, typically, if I really wanted to care about it, I would probably go back to eating 6 times a day like I did when I was competing. I ate 6 times a day. I drink. Now I'm trying to get back into drinking water, so I'm drinking one of these every hour. I have an alarm that goes off on my phone and tells me to chug it and fill it up again, because I'm trying to make sure I drink. Someone said his iron intake is good. Yeah, but that's what we also learned, that he's taking all sorts of supplements just for his liver, you know, to counteract the damage that's going to be done from the liver from doing all the Deca and all the other drugs all the other steroids that he's taking. Personally, for me, I don't care. I don't care if someone uses steroids. I compete in a powerlifting federation that has both people that use steroid, or both people that are drug tested, which are people that are obviously clean. They don't use anything, no hormone replacements, no testosterone shots or anything like that. That's where I compete in. But the same federation also has, they also run undrug tested, right? Non-drug tested powerlifting meets. And the difference is dramatic. Like I competed in a non-drug testing competition just because the other teammates from the gym that I was working out at in Florida were also competing in there. And like people were opening with 600 pounds, 700 pound, 800 pound squats, like opening, like, which is insane. They were benching 500 pounds and they call themselves natural. You know what I mean? And it's funny because there was one guy at the gym, and I know they don't watch this show because they don't like politics, so I could say it. There's one guy at the gym that did a whole pile of stuff, right? And he had a 550 pound, he's got all sorts of records and stuff, 550 pound bench press. What's really funny to me is when he cycled off, his bench press would drop down to like 300. You know what I mean? When he would cycle off all his stuff and try to be like natural, you know, for 6 or 7 months, the amount of strength that he would lose, he wouldn't really lose any size. He would start to like put on a little weight, but he wouldn't lose size. He still looked like a big dude. But the amount of strength that he lost when he stopped using the stuff was unbelievable, you know? But I've always said that I would probably use like testosterone booster or, you know, any of that stuff if I stopped making gains, like if I stopped getting stronger and stronger. But, you know, for the past 7 years, and I'm getting old now, but for the past 7 years, I go out and break my records and I keep doing stuff and, you know, and just keep getting stronger and stronger. So I don't know. It's weird. I know it's a really off topic conversation because you guys are all like, what the hell is he talking about this for? This isn't news. Steve said he was going to be talking about the news. Well, you guys want some news? Looks like the European Union says that if Elon Musk doesn't like put really firm content guidance in his moderation, and they don't want Twitter to become this place. Here's the crazy thing is everyone says Twitter is going to be under Elon Musk. Twitter is going to become a platform of hate and vitriol and, white supremacy and, death threats and all this stuff. And you know what? It's not. I believe, and I will honestly say, I think Twitter has become more tame since Elon Musk purchased Twitter. I really do. I think it's become more tame. I don't see all the same crazy loony stuff that I was seeing before. Granted, I don't really follow. Well, I don't. Well, yeah, I do. I just think it's tamer now, but everyone is all outraged by this. The White House was talking about it. You heard Peter Doocy today in the White House press conference ask when the White House was going to delete their Twitter account because they, and it makes a valid point too. Like, why are you using a platform that you don't believe is a safe platform and that you feel like you have to watch to make sure they're safe, right? But yeah, it's just crazy. Why do they want Twitter to suppress speech? Yeah, I don't know, man. Ed said, see how he did a streamer called Anomaly. Are you talking about Tim Pool? I don't know what you're referencing. Yeah, but I think that the Amelie Bummy thing, I think that's already been resolved. I saw something on Twitter between them all. Listen, I think Tim Pool is like an acquired taste. Like I can never watch a whole episode of his show. You know what I mean? But like I was tuned in with the Yee and all that stuff the other day. I'll probably watch the one with Milo from a couple of weeks ago just to get the context of what they were talking about with that. But Tim Pool, and just like I said, would I go on a show? Sure, I would go on a show. I wouldn't be able to hang with them. They are all like, it's just like I said yesterday. I am a regular person. Okay, that's my view on me. You know what I mean? I'm not like supremely intelligent. I don't have like a Rolodeck of facts in my head. I am just a regular everyday person that chooses to make videos and talk about politics and stuff. You'll see a lot of the big political commentators are just like insanely bright. They all have the same, it's almost like they're like on the spectrum or something, right? Where they all have the same way of talking. They talk really fast and they all have that same pompous I'm better than you attitude, which is interesting. But, I know Tim Pool has a lot of people that just don't like him for whatever reason. And I think it's just because he is, on his show, he's a little bit arrogant and kind of has that know-it-all, capacity. But then again, I do the same thing. I just do it differently, and usually I don't say something unless I'm 100% correct, unless I already know, like I already do the due diligence on the background. Someone said Tim Pool screwed over a live streamer called Anomaly. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I think they said they were cool on social media, but maybe not. I don't know. But I think what Tim Pool is doing is and the thing too, I think Tim Pool, I think it's an act. Like, how actors they get into character. What's that called? There's a term for it. Where they get in, like Heath Ledger was someone that did it a lot. And then who's the other one? The singer from 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto. He does they're method actors. Is that what they're called? Method actors, where they like turn into the character. I think Tim Pool I think he's an actor. I think it's an act, the whole conservatism thing and all that stuff, that's just my belief. You know what I mean? I don't, my personal belief is that he doesn't have the same like wants for the country that we all do, and that he represents that he does, because he's got a big base right now, Someone said Anomaly is awesome. You should check him out. I will. I'll try to find it. All right, guys, but I'm not doing a show tonight. That's why I went live earlier, because I'm tired, and I'm having all the beer stomach issues that you do when you drink entirely too much the night before. So, and like I said, it wasn't planned. We knew we were going to dinner, but I didn't know that we were staying up until early morning hours, drinking until we couldn't anymore. So, I mean, just to be honest, I don't drink ever. So after having like 2 beers, I was already half in the bag, and then we just continued. I don't know what happened, but we're giving away an iPad. Okay. So listen to this. It's very important. We're giving away an iPad because we like to give away stuff, and it's a great way for us to make money. If you want this 64 gigabyte iPad 4th generation with Wi-Fi, it's a 10 point something screen. 10. I don't know. It doesn't say it. Does it? I think, yeah, it's a 10-inch iPad. Here's what you got to do. You got to send a Cash App, a Venmo, or a PayPal, $5 or more. It doesn't actually matter the amount. And then write the platform that you watch it, or send me your email. And you have all the way until tomorrow night. Okay. So you could do it today. You could do it tomorrow. You could send multiple ones. I'll be honest, there's a lot of people that do that. So right now, I think there's probably 5 or 6 people, or 7 or 8 people that have sent Cash Apps or Venmos. So you have a very good chance at winning this. I do it because it's an easier way for you guys to support the stream and get something out of it, versus me just being like, hey, I need your financial support. I don't do the super chat reading thing that pretty much all of the other YouTubers do, and we're not really monetized on YouTube. They only monetize some of our videos. So it's super helpful. If you like the show, there's 263 of you watching across social media right now because it's a daytime show and nobody watches. If you guys all did $5, I'd be in real good shape. And one of you will win an iPad. So, and if you want a chance of winning a 55-inch flat screen TV, go to theangryturnip.com, search for the Trucker t-shirt bundle, buy that sucker. We're donating $10 from every bundle that we sell to the St. Christopher Trucking Relief Fund, I believe is what it's called. It's a fund that goes to provide financial support to truckers that have fallen ill or their families. It's a great organization. You guys can look them up at truckersfund.org and make a contribution directly to them. Support America's truckers while supporting our show. It's a great idea. And we'll be giving away a TV on Friday for one of the people that do that. So, and to be honest, we've only sold 4 of them. 4 of them. So right now, if you purchase one of those trucker t-shirt bundles, you have an incredible chance at winning a TV because we're giving away 2 chances at winning. One of the things will have a card in it that says you won a TV, one of the bundles when you get it. And then we're giving away a TV live on the air on Friday night. So I appreciate everyone for watching and hanging out with me. I will not be live again today. However, tomorrow, if you haven't followed me on YouTube under just my name, Steve Oatley, go follow me on YouTube because I'm going to upload a lot of videos, probably starting tomorrow. I don't know how many times I can upload a video where you still get a push notification after. Like that's one of the reasons why I decided I'm going live, because I kept losing the internet before it finally cut off this morning while they were doing something with the lines outside. So I don't know how many notifications. I'm going to try to look it up and see how many times I could put out a video and you'll still get notifications. And the reason I say follow me on YouTube is we're having some problems with Facebook where they're not, it's taken a long time for the videos to upload there. I'm not quite sure why. Party at my house. Yeah, it's called My Bed. I'm going to sleep. I'm very tired. I'm also very hungry because I ate a breakfast sandwich at 9 o'clock this morning, and that's it. And it's 4:30. So I just need to hydrate more, probably drink a Gatorade and go to bed. But all right, guys, I will see you all tomorrow. Make sure if you want a chance to win an iPad, send a Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. We'll do that drawing live tomorrow night. And you could do that at any time. You could do that an hour from now. If you're watching this on a repeat later, you could do it. All right, guys, we'll see you. Bye.